Hey bestie, and welcome to the newest episode of the Plobcast. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is not for little ears. We do get very unhinged and unfiltered on here. I do apologize if you hear any background noise. I am sitting in the hotel floor right now in the bathroom because don't worry, I'm not using the bathroom. It's just we are on vacation and there was a booking issue with the hotel my mother-in-law booked, so we ended up having to move. So now I am having to record this while my kids are asleep in the other room, and I am literally in the bathroom doing it. Just a heads up, one of the story times that was sent in to me this week is about Magic the Gathering Con, so Magic Con. So yeah, don't eat. Ozempic hates to see me coming because it's about to get grody. But before we get into that, I do want to relieve some stress of the civilians because I am seeing so many posts about the draft. Oh my gosh, World War III, the draft. As a civilian, you are not going to be drafted, and I'm going to explain why. So I am a veteran, and I am, even though I'm 100% service with 6 service-connected disabilities, I'm still part of the IRR. If you don't know what that is a program for people who are out of the military but can still be activated or recalled. Back in the day, the reason they had the draft is because we didn't have things like this. So also the training was a lot shorter. It was a whole different world, a lot more hand-to-hand and shooting and up close and personal. We didn't have all the fancy things that we have today. And a draft, because of the IRR, is just... It's not going to happen unless we go to war with some aliens or something, or we're fighting every single country other than us, which we've already got countries on our side of it. We shouldn't be going to war anyways. I honestly disagree with everything that's going on, but I am just being realistic with people. You are not going to get drafted. There is no world where you would get drafted unless, like I said, we go to war with like the aliens, because the IRR. So with the IRR, they will, if all of active duty and all of the reserves that we currently have aren't enough somehow, if just somehow we don't have all that, which, the reserves and the active duty right now, we have plenty to cover, then they will go to the IRR. And what will happen is they will activate anybody in the IRR who is not got any disability rating through the VA. And then if all of those people, which there's thousands and thousands of, do not make up enough, like if there's not enough of them, then they will start pulling from category B, which is anybody who is 90% or below with their disability VA rating or medical rating. And then if somehow those people aren't enough, then they come to people like me who are 100% but still in the employable category, which that's like a 2% chance of even someone like me being activated with being in that third category, that C category. And then you have to worry about civilians. So the chances of an actual draft are so insanely low. We're talking 0.00002%. So for those of you who are panicking and thinking that, because you're under 39, you might get drafted. No, you're not going to. Although I did get a very interesting comment. A man came in my comments and was like, you're a woman, so you don't have to worry about being drafted, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to show this comment. If the IRR does activate me, then I'm going to show them this comment and be like, sorry, this random user with no profile picture said that because I don't have a dick slinging between my legs that you can't activate me. I'm sure that'll get me out of it, right? Just a FYI, that is sarcasm. It will not. They will not start pulling civilians until they go through all of those thousands and thousands and there's literally tens of thousands of people in the IRR. There's no world where civilians will be drafted. Like I said, unless we have some universe war, instead of a world war, we have a universe world, we're fighting aliens or something, you will not be drafted. You do not have to worry about that. Once again, back in the day, the reason why the draft, since things we didn't have IRR and stuff. And the other reason why they don't want to draft civilians is you do have to also consider the training that we have nowadays, because we have so many different categories, so many different MOSs and job trainings and all these things that we have now. A lot of those trainings are so long that it's not, back in the draft, you get pulled, go to basic for a few weeks, and then bam, you're getting deployed. That is just not how it works nowadays. There's a lot of training with things like AIT, things like A school, stuff like that. There's also passing that. For example, one of the reasons why, even after getting out, even with 100% disability rating, I would still get called from recruiters and things trying to be like, but we have a waiver for that. You want to join the reserves, about all this crap, is because there's such a low percentage of people that both qualify and pass my particular MOS training, chemical equipment specialist. That is And that is another factor in there, is with the amount of training you have nowadays for AIT. There are some people who go to AIT for like a year and a half, and that's after boot camp. There is no such thing as just doing boot camp and going straight in like there used to be back then. That's why they had stuff like that, because they could just throw you to boot camp for a few weeks and then deploy you. That's no longer a thing. I know there's some people who get confused, because if you're something like infantry, your boot camp and then your MOS training are kind of together, usually like the Fort Benning or something, but it's still separate training. So yeah, you don't worry. All the civilians can relax. You're not getting drafted. You don't have to keep panicking. I see so many people who are like, oh, I'm going to get. Also, there's some weird stuff I've seen of people being like, oh, I don't qualify because of this. I don't qualify for that. Baby, there are waivers for just about everything. Just about everything. You got ADHD, you got autism, none of that disqualifies you. You would not believe the percentage of neurodivergent people within the military. There was a study on it a while back. One of the reasons why neurodivergent people thrive in the military is because of their uniqueness when it comes to schedule. Like having that set schedule is why we have so many neurodivergent people within the military. Like autism, ADHD, all that does not disqualify you at all. Also with the trans thing, as a lot of people were saying, oh, trans aren't allowed in the military. If you actually read into that, it is those who are post-op. So if you've, you don't have to be fully post-op, but if you have gone through so many years of treatment and you've had like surgery, or even if you haven't had surgery, but you've been on treatment for so many years, that is the only way being trans will get you out of that. If you are, if we were to draft, which is not going to happen once again, that the being trans would not disqualify you at all. If you are pre-op, you haven't like been on for so many years. A lot of people don't read into that full article that they put out, and they think it's like anybody who says they're trans or whatever, and that's just not the case. But once again, you don't have to worry about any of that because you're not getting drafted. I promise. We have way too many IRRs to activate to ever need the draft again. Now that that's done, let's get into the plob stories. So this last week, if you did not hear, I talked about the girl who had dick cheese rubbed on her bare skin while working at a game card shop combo, a small one. And some people heard that, and you guys sent me your own stories of bodily fluids. This is why I said don't eat. So I was sent a story time. These two guys went to MagicCon a few years ago. And while MagicCon, unless something's changed, from my understanding, they still do have a hygiene policy. Tournaments have a hygiene policy. I know that for a fact, but also... and a lot of small stores are starting to have hygiene policies, but MagicCon has hygiene policies. Let me double check. I'm going to read it off. Yes, it says that all participants must review and confirm that they are able to comply with the health and safety policy, which is the hygiene policy. And unfortunately, as we all know, if you've ever been to a convention, not everybody follows that, even when they have it. Now, it is a lot worse when they don't have a hygiene policy, but unfortunately, even when you do, there are people who will not follow it. And the fact that these are two different freaking followers that sent in these stories, but they're so similar, is insane. The first one that sent in, they were at MagicCon, I believe, Chicago. They said they went to go into a panel area, and they said they could smell something, but they assumed it was just, similar situation to what happened with us at MomoCon, where like just everybody stunk. And they had these cloth vent chairs. And if you've seen them before, and it's not just conventions. They have these at like a lot of event centers. Churches sometimes have them and stuff, where it's like that, it's a icky fabric to me because it's like real rough, but it's like that padded, there's no arms or anything to it, but it's a padded event chair, pull out. So they go to sit down on this chair, and they made the mistake of not looking before they sat down. Like, they glanced at it to make sure nobody put their stuff there, but they just glance over, they go to sit down, and they said they had a costume on, so they didn't feel it when they first sat down, but when they got up, their friend was like, oh my God, their friend squealed. He was like, what the fuck? And he looks and realizes he has shit on his ass. The follower did not shit his pants, to be clear. He had sat down on that chair, and apparently there was a shit streak, and where it was like a dark fabric chair, when he just glanced at it, he didn't notice, and the room already stunk, because he said like most of the con, he was finding all these places that different ones that stunk. So they didn't realize there was shit on that chair. And yes, somebody in the panel before had shit on the chair. This poor guy had sat down in somebody else's shit. And he said there was a big streak on his ass. He said he was so embarrassed. He had to go pay for an Uber to go back to his hotel room and come back. He said he felt so bad because when he got in the Uber, he said the Uber guy almost denied him getting into it because he smelled so bad. And he was like, no, I promise it wasn't me. He said luckily the Uber guy had towels in his car, and he put the towel down, sat in the Uber on it so he didn't get it on the guy's car seats. And he said he tipped the guy an extra $20 because he felt so bad for stinking up this dude's car like that. What's even wilder is I have another story that was sent in to me by a different follower that went to Magic Con a few years ago, and she said this is the reason she has never been back. She said same issue with all the hygiene and the stinking, and she, noticing the smell of these guys, but she had dressed up as her favorite Magic Gathering. She had made this by hand, this handcrafted cosplay of her favorite card. She was so excited. She said it was a Draz, hold on just a second. She says a Draz vampire rogue. And she had, done all this work to make it look perfect, and she had body paint on. She looked amazing. She actually sent me a picture. She looked gorgeous in this. But she said her cosplay actually ended up getting ruined. Well, she said she did clean it and everything, but she, was just so grossed out she had to take it off. She deep cleaned it when she got home. So she had a guy come up and ask for a picture, and no big deal. Everybody's asking for pictures at cons. And he had put his hand around her waist on the fabric, and she said he smelled bad when he did this, but she noticed after a few minutes the smell was still lingering. They're no longer around this guy. They've walked off to another. She's trying to figure out what's lingering, and she ends up looking at her cosplay and realizing it looks like Cheeto dust and shit on her cosplay. As a cosplayer, the way I would have ripped, oh my God, I would have crashed out in the freaking con. That is so nasty. Imagine you work so hard. She said it took her she had over 40 hours of work to make sure because she practiced making the makeup and stuff repeatedly, and she'd handcraft her costume. She was the first cosplay she'd ever made by hand, and this motherfucking plob, nasty fucker, literally got shit. And she said she had told him that he could put his arm around her shoulder, and he still decided to grab around her waist. Reminds me of the Dick Cheese guy from that other one. She said that's what made her send in this story, is because of the Dick Cheese guy that we talked about last week. I just want to know why it's always Magic Gathering. It is always Magic Gathering. We get stories from other ones, but Magic Gathering seems to be the one that I get the most. It's the one that you see, people like Wizard in a T-shirt talk about the most. It is a common thing. And that's the thing, is it's a good game. It's a good game. Why the fuck are all the plobs here? Why are we getting all the plobs? I haven't played Magic in years because it's if you don't know, I have an ex who was a semi-pro player. He did it, Seth. And I would go and support him and see so much of this. It's insane. So I apologize if I'm a little quiet on the mic. I just realized my mic had accidentally got turned down. So I turned that back up for you. So hopefully you can hear me a lot better now. I apologize if it now sounds like I'm screaming at you. I'm guessing whenever I was setting this up, my kid had to go to the bathroom before he went to bed. And earlier he was touching this, so he might have accidentally turned it down. So I am so sorry if you had me on blast before and now I'm yelling in your ear. Another thing about these plobs that drives me nuts is how unapologetic they are about it, how they make it seem like it's not a big deal, how it's, they act like they're doing nothing wrong despite the fact that they, are releasing terrorist attacks on our freaking noses. The irony in it is, if you did not see my video when visiting my hometown, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, because some people need to remember basic human compassion. I was handing out some stuff to homeless people, and I had a guy who apologized for his smell. He was like, I know I smell bad, I'm so sorry. And I'm sitting there thinking, what I think is really interesting is this person they have an odor because they are homeless and don't have an option. Yet these Magic the Gathering, not just Magic the Gathering, but plobs in general within fandom, whether it's Magic the Gathering, My Little Pony, anime, video games, whatever, they don't ever apologize for smelling bad. They're never like, hey, I'm sorry that I purposely chose to not shower and smell like shit. But you have this sweet homeless guy who feels bad that he smells bad because he doesn't have an option to shower. And it's like, what the fuck? Speaking of the homeless guy, like I said, if you haven't seen my video, I would like to remind everybody to just have basic human compassion, because whenever I was back home, there was a heat advisory in West Virginia, which for us is just a regular day in Texas, but there was a heat advisory, and I had a case of water, and I still had some leftover, some mini sunblocks from the domestic violence shelter that I have for like my homeless bags that I make at home to pass out. And a case of Gatorade, and I saw a bunch of them sitting across the road over by the church, and I grabbed, the case of Gatorade, and I'd walked across the street to pass this stuff out and offer it to them. And I had this cop come over, new boot motherfucker, fresh out of the academy, like, dude didn't even look old enough to drink, and he came over and he was extremely ignorant and rude. He came over, was like, "Are they bothering you, ma'am?" And got in the guy's face, was like, "Are you bothering this young lady?" And oh Lord, I about went to jail, because I'm like, the only person bothering me is you. You watched me walk from my car, cross over from, the Comfort Inn, whatever the heck they've renamed it. It's beside the Best Western, beside the Civic Center. But you watched me pull that out of my car and walk over. They didn't ask me for anything. You watched me walk that over. And you still came over and was yelling at this guy for no reason. And then the next day had a similar problem. Whenever we went to leave, I saw there was some outside still, and I was bringing some more stuff over to them then. And freaking interaction again. And I actually know an officer that, from the area, from when I was a kid and stuff, one of the only ones with morals. And he said, yeah, they've started nicknaming that guy Judd the Dud, because his last name is Judd. And he is a problem. They said he's been out of the academy for only like 3 months, and he's already gotten in trouble multiple times. At one point, he said he was out of the academy for like a month before he tried to draw a gun on a kid it was like an 8 or 9 year old kid trying to steal candy. And the guy is a problem. They said he is one of those assholes that peaked in high school. He was definitely the high school bully. He played football, made fun of the nerd kids, and now he's got a uniform and thinks that, he's Billy Badass over here. And they said he had also gotten in trouble because he had made a comment when the heat advisory was coming in, and they were like, I guess, briefing him on how the heat advisories come in to be aware. And he had made a comment to one of the other officers who did not like that comment very well. Because he commented, he was like, oh yeah, maybe it'll take out some of these homeless. Maybe the heat wave will clean up our streets by taking some of them out. And that officer apparently very quickly, swiftly corrected his ass and reminded him that, your job is to protect and to serve, which includes the homeless people, not just fucking treating them like shit. There was actually a homeless veteran I got to speak to. We were walking inside, and he was sitting outside. He is a Vietnam veteran. And poor guy, he just wanted somebody to talk to. He was talking about how lonely he was because, in that area, there's a lot of homeless people that are in addiction or mentally ill, and, there's not a lot of people he can talk to. He lost his house a year ago in the hurricane situation, the flooding in the Appalachians and everything, and talked about how insurance didn't want to pay for it, and how, they were fighting on that, and how he lost his wife a couple years ago, and due to being in the war, he lost his ability to have children, and so he doesn't have any family left alive. And he just wanted somebody to talk to, and he had, heard us talking about being on military leave earlier, because I was talking to somebody else about that, and I overheard it. And he showed me his pocket watch that he had from this collector's Vietnam War thing, and he showed me his military ID, and he was just talking, and we were just sitting there having a conversation. Talked for it was like half an hour or so. And it was really sad because that's all he wanted. He just wanted somebody to have a conversation with. I did give him the card to, if you don't know, I did a fundraiser a few years back for a DV shelter that was a little bit while away from Charleston, but it's another part of West Virginia. So while they obviously do not help with homeless stuff, they do have connections to other homeless shelters because the shelters in Charleston are all full. So I gave him her number, and hopefully they'll be able to find him somewhere. There's sadly a lot of people out there like that in the Charleston area right now because of the housing market being so bad, but also because of that flooding and stuff. Houses got destroyed, and these insurance companies are scum shit that don't want to pay for stuff even after you've paid for them for years, and all this crap, and it's putting these people in bad positions, including veterans. I have not posted this yet, but you guys will see a video where I about lost my shit on the hotel that we were staying at. So a lot of stuff was booked because of Juneteenth, and it was West Virginia Day. And so there was a lot of stuff going on. And we get to the hotel, and I took a picture and was recording this. I come up and I see a sign that says, will not book rooms for anybody that lives within 25 miles of the hotel. And I was really confused. I was like, is that because all the tourism? Like, I asked them, and I'm thinking, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, they have this sign because they're worried about, like, you know, locals taking up rooms when tourists can come in, especially because West Virginia is ranked one of the most unlivable states in the entire country. It's got a high addiction rate, has a high homeless rate. It has one of the lowest scores for education. The state is falling apart. It was literally ranked last year like most unlivable state. Heck, they pay like one of the least. There's one of the lowest salaries in the country, but the highest prices. Like they out here charging like they're damn California, but you get the same salary as somebody in backwoods Alabama. So, you know, they're trying to do a lot of touristy thing. There was a point where they would even pay you like $10,000 to move to West Virginia for a few years. Like, it was so bad. They've done everything to try to keep the state alive. So that's what I thought they had that sign for. But I asked them, and oh my God, I had to fight not getting myself kicked out of the hotel because I knew there was nothing else open in the area. She looks me dead in my face, the secretary, and she goes, yeah, that's because people kept buying rooms for homeless people, so we now banned anybody from buying a room if you're local, so they'll stop buying rooms for homeless people. Bitch, you are one hurricane or mudslide or something happening again, you could be homeless too. You're literally I know for a fact the job you're sitting there working pays like $8.50 an hour, and you're going to be so heartless that you do something. And it wasn't like she was saying, oh, they had issues with tearing them up or anything like that. She was complaining about the smell. She's like, yeah, homeless people coming in here stinking up the bitch, I'm about to get arrested. Because what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't understand how people lack such human empathy, basic compassion, basic human decency. It is absolutely disgusting. It's one of the many reasons I don't like going back to my home state. The amount of motherfuckers I heard complaining about homeless people and stuff, and how they can't get tourists and everything. I'm like, yeah, because you guys, there was one lady that was another worker, and there was some tourists that had came down from, I think they said Pittsburgh or something. They were in front of me, and they were asking stuff to do, and she was giving them horrible recommendations. And I'm like, hey, so I'm actually from, that's all closed down, what she's listing off and stuff, and here's a better option. You can go over to Recovery and stuff for wings. And she was over here, oh no, West Virginia's amazing, blah, blah, blah. There are people in West Virginia who, no matter how much proof you show them of the state falling apart, they will be diehards and be like, no, it's amazing. There's so much. There's nothing. You drive around the town. West Virginia has a golden capital. They literally spent millions on all the new fancy things they're doing around the capital, but they can't keep people there. You drive around the town, and you'll see all those buildings. They show videos to try to advertise. Like I said, they literally were paying people to try to get them to move there. It's so bad. But then if you drive around, all you will see is a lot of homeless, a lot of tore down buildings. Everything's shut down. The mall has like nothing left in it. They destroyed the interior of the mall years ago to put in a Starbucks instead of the nice water fountain it had. Now the Starbucks isn't even there. If you go into the mall in the middle of the day, there is like nothing. Everything is getting shut down. They'll be like, for every one store that is open, you'll walk past another 10 to 15 that are closed and non-existent anymore because people can't afford. There was an amazing alternative plus-size store at one point that now they only have a Beckley location. I used to follow them. I still do on TikTok, and now they don't even have that. But then you meet these ones. You will meet those diehards that will, be like, yeah, it's amazing. We're gonna have a come up, and no, you're not. It's just gonna keep falling apart, dude. Maybe if you just admitted that it was falling apart, you could actually get something done about it, make some real difference instead of spending millions on making a fancy capital when there's nothing around it's even open. But unfortunately, West Virginia is always going to be like that. It's going to keep getting worse. Like I said, spent all those money on that golden capital, but then they haven't repaired the homeless shelters that were shut down, or the Section 8 apartments that's been shut down for years because they needed fixed. I mean, the Section 8 that's still open doesn't even have air conditioning. They won't pay anybody living wages around there. It's, there's things you can do. West Virginia teachers are the ones that started that whole strike for how bad they were getting paid too. Like, if you ignore the problem, it's not going to go away. You need to address it. So that's my little rant about my home state. I apologize for going on that so long. Let's get back into some of these story times. So, if you do not know who Drew, the resident TikTok blob, is, he is from the Jenkins family. He's the one that has all those kids that we caught. A few people were talking about my video on this, about how he's been buying all these games. You can see it because his profile is public and everything, where he's been buying all these games despite the fact that they are living in a hotel homeless with their kids. I believe he is actively still in jail while we're speaking, but he did come up on some charges for back child support. But don't worry, he has like every new video of the game that comes out on the system. He is the prime example of why you should never procreate with a plob, because this woman has, and his first baby mama has too, and he puts video games before everything. Doesn't clean, all kinds of stuff. You watch the videos of them, and it is a disaster. Nobody can figure out how the heck they still have custody of their kids, but apparently there's some breaking news about this. I was watching a video on somebody who does summaries of them, the Resilient Jenkins, and Drew and Stephanie apparently broke up. I don't know over what, but they apparently broke up, and this man I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, this man's got shitty drawers. So I believe he is currently in jail, but before that, because where he had those warrants, somebody said he finally got picked up. But before that, when they were breaking up, he made sure to bring all of his gaming systems, but she was showing her folding the clothes and stuff, and he left all his underwear and clothes there, but brought the game system. Sir, I know your ass be stinking. What do you mean? He didn't even bring his soap. She was showing his like soap and stuff was still in the shower, and I'm like, you telling me you made sure to bring that PlayStation and your games, but you didn't bring no soap for your ass? You are a whole ass grown man. You have kids. What do you mean you didn't bring your soap or your clean underwear? Does this man? And this apparently was like going on for days, and so you're telling me you're gaming, and that people were saying they could see that he was online on his game system, like on his account was online and everything. So you're telling me you're just sitting there gaming in the same nasty underwear and shit? You didn't bring no soap, no nothing? That is disgusting. And why? Why the fuck? It's not that hard to get up from the game and wash your ass. I promise you. Skyrim or whatever you're playing, Marvel Rivals is not gonna suddenly disappear if you go wash your ass. What's really sad is I'm noticing that it's becoming a generational thing, because you gotta think back, boomers didn't grow up with, a bunch of video games and stuff like that, and Gen X had, Nintendo and whatnot, but the generation that really started the video game addiction, and once again, I love video games. I have the original Nintendo all the way up to the PS5. I don't have the new Xbox, and I'm not getting the new Switch too. We'll talk about that in a second. But we're the first generation. Millennials are really the first generation that really, really grew up on video games. Because as any Gen Z will tell you, they grew up like drinking from a hose and everything. I grew up like that too, but that was just because I was poor. But we're the first generation that's having kids that has a generation that does have people that are addicted to video games and who will literally put video games above personal hygiene and basic care needs. And it's creating a generational curse, basically, because now you're seeing the kids of the older millennials that, were obsessed with Xbox 360 and PS2 and everything are now having children that are turning out to be the same way and normalizing it because they're seeing these plobs, their plob parents. Like we had that one story time that Incel sent in about the dad abusing the kids and how the mom allowed it to happen as long as the kids didn't interrupt her playing her video games on the computer. And we need to stop it. We need to stop it because we cannot start having this be a generational issue. Like my kids love video games, but they have electronics and stuff, but they know there are limits to it. They know, they're not going to be, so they have to do other stuff. They have to touch grass. They got to play. They have a pool. They have a trampoline. They have a little pool that I got. My mom got it on sale last year, but either way, like they have stuff outside. They have basketball hoop. My son does sports too. They know he does martial arts. You can't just be on the video games. But sadly, I meet other parents like that. I have met other plob parents. I will never forget. I felt bad because my living room was a little messy when I invited this one family over. And they were like, yeah, our kids like to play Minecraft stuff too. And I was like, oh, yay. Another kid my son's age that he can play Minecraft with, because I'm very strict with the video games. I make sure that they're not accessing adults and stuff. We're going to talk about the Roblox incident with my friend's son, but in a little bit. But yeah. And then I went over to their house for the first time, and I was like, whoa, what is happening here? And I go in their gaming room, and it is molded food and stuff all over. It reminds me of that Power Envy guy that was from Houston that went famous for like naming his cockroaches and being so disgusting in his room. He said he was a Roblox streamer or whatever. Yeah, and I was like, hey, what is up with this? They're like, oh, well, it's because we're all gamers, me and my kids, blah, blah, blah. She's talking about how her mother-in-law came over like once a week and threw out all the trash for them because, and she tried to make it seem like it was normal. She was like, yeah, you know how it is gaming. And I'm like, no, I don't know how it is to leave molded food for like a week at a time with my kids around. No way. No. I mean, sometimes, I'll set a soda can down and won't get it till the next morning if I have it before bed, but I'm not leaving it for so long it's getting mold all over it. She also confessed that she went, and this pissed me off so bad, as a former poor kid, as somebody who volunteers and helps with donations and stuff for this kind of stuff, fundraisers for it. She admitted, she was like, oh yeah, there was this new game. I can't remember I think it was like the new Sonic game or something at the time is what she was saying. There's a new game coming out that they wanted, but it was right when back to school started. So they went to a back to school drive and got free supplies. That way they could still buy the game because they were like, yeah, I was either going to have to pick school supplies or buy this new game. So I went and I found a school supply drive to go to. And it's like, what the fuck? That is so selfish because there are kids who need that. And sadly, there are some people who will show up to drives like that and they will have already ran out and they don't get those school supplies that they needed that they can't afford. Like they actually can't afford. And you're going over here and taking these backpacks and school supplies because you wanted the new fucking Sonic game. The new video game is not a necessity. Speaking of, I do want to talk about the Switch 2. I've seen the videos. I've seen the guy that's breaking them. What is the point? What is wrong with people? Why are you buying these? It's what they're like $800 system and then you're busting it for what? For views? Like, I'm sorry, that's not worth it. And I guess he's getting like banned from Nintendo's trying to ban him or something because apparently there was only so many that you could get with the pre-release and he was one of them and now he's just using them to break the game systems. I will tell you right now, don't buy the Switch 2. Don't buy the Switch 2. If you look into it, it's similar to what's happening with the iPhone 16. Yes, they have some stuff for it, but it's going to be another year or two before it is fully up and working and all the bugs are out and there's enough games to make it worth it. And then by that time, it'll be less money. It has been years since a gaming system has been worth buying on launch day. Like a lot of these ones, there's even a whole song somebody made with a little animated, kind of reminds me of like the little scroll dude back in the day learning, but he's talking about how back in like when it's a Nintendo 64 and stuff like that and the GameCube, those systems used to be good for launch day, but nowadays it comes out and it's not they're still working out all the bugs and they're still making games for it and they only have like a couple of games that are ready to go and they like to advertise it like it's all ready to go, but it realistically isn't. And it's better to wait a year or two, and then it'll also drop the price. So please don't go out there and waste your money on the Switch 2. Oh, and for those of you who are worried, because I've had a couple people send me this about the Switch 2, people are like, oh my gosh, my Switch is getting banned or whatever. It says that I can't use it anymore. That is for people who were using illegal modifications. If you are not trying to jailbreak, mod, whatever it's called, whatever you want to call it, your Switch, it's still going to work. Don't worry. They're not cutting them off because the Switch 2 came off. That's not what's happening. It's people who are doing illegal mods and stuff. The new updates are now catching them. That's why their systems are not working. It's right in the name, illegal modifications. Which it does kind of suck that, you can't do modification stuff, but that's always been the case. That's always been a risk if you do any modifications, if you jailbreak on any technology, that is a risk you always run. I remember, back in the day, jailbreaking the original iPhone and stuff, because I saved up so much to get that first iPhone. Ironically, I saved up, got the first iPhone with my job, and then I did not get another iPhone because I fell in love with Androids until I think it was like 3 years ago. I currently have the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I do not want to upgrade because it's paid off and shit, but I probably eventually will because everybody knows how Apple and Samsung both are with, when they start coming out with newer and newer ones, they start making the old ones not work anymore. But I remember when we would jailbreak the OG iPhones and that's just a risk that you had to run, though. Like, if you did that, it made it so your insurance from the phone company wouldn't work, and then Apple wouldn't touch your devices, and it's a risk that you run. I don't know why people are so shocked by this happening with the Switch 2, because, like I said, like, if you've been around for a while, technology always does that. As soon, it even warns you, like, in your little contract, if you jailbreak it, you can end up banned, or they won't work on it, fix it, or anything. And I'm not against jailbreaking as long as you understand the risk and liability that you're giving yourself. It is, if you want to jailbreak, that is your business. You want to modify, that is your business. But you can't get upset when you face repercussions for doing that, bud. The fact that I'm surprised that it's taken this long for, Switches to get blocked out because of those mods. In exciting news, we have finally found a service that seems to be perfect. I'm going to be testing it out with a close friend about having guests on the podcast, because, like I said, every Thursday, I want to start every single Thursday having every Thursday episode. Like I said, people wouldn't have to set it up for Thursday. I don't know, we'll schedule it for whenever we're both available. I've already got some people who volunteer that want to be on the Plobcast, and as I said, you can continue to submit for that. And anybody over the age of 18 that wants to tell their Plob stories and tell their experiences within fandom, you are welcome to come on the podcast. Listen, the only rules will be, obviously no racism, no homophobia, no slurs, no things like that. I think that is my biggest fear, though, with having guests on there, because I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous that I'm going to get the wrong one. For example, I had somebody the other day who was like, oh, I want to be on the Plobcast, and then they were telling me, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with what this podcast is about at all. And honestly, what they were saying seemed to be very homophobic. They were complaining about, Xbox and them changing their logo for Pride Month, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to talk about how that's ruining fandom. That's not ruining fandom. You're ruining fandom by giving a damn so much and being homophobic. You're literally upset because they changed their logo for Pride Month. Oh God, the rainbow's gonna kill you. Did it change your gameplay? Did it change how, you playing is affected in any way? No? Then don't worry about it. Don't. It's not affecting you. Why are you bitching? Sound like a little whiny baby. Reminds me of those kids that they would get popsicles, like you get free popsicles or something somewhere, like a neighborhood lady be giving them out. And then they threw a fit because they didn't get the color popsicle they wanted. Bitch, you still got a free popsicle. Shut up. So just a reminder, if you want to be anybody over the age, I want normal people. I want everyday people to be able to tell their stories within fandom, plob stories, incel stories, bad coworkers at GameStop, at the game store. If it's something outside of that, it just really, or, the Quink plob stories, anything like that. If it's not in that section, it's just not going to fit into the podcast. So I've tried to respond to people and let them know, like, if I'm saying no, because like I said, I've had a couple of people. I've also had some people who submit stories that make no damn sense. I one time had this lady who submitted a story, and she was like, I have a plob story for you, and then it wasn't a plob story. She said she worked at Sephora and had a guy come in and was asking about makeup, and he didn't know any of the names of the makeup, and was her plob story. I'm like, that's not a plob. That's just a guy not knowing makeup. What are you talking about? There's videos and skits people do about guys not knowing what makeup is. I mean, maybe go to them. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just that doesn't fit it at all. If it's not, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to make people listen to something that has nothing to do with, what the topics are. Like, we stick to the topics. Emergency room stories also too, like EMTs and stuff, with our plob experiences with people shoving things up their butts that don't belong there. That's another one that plenty of us, stuff. If it's not in one of those categories, we're not talking about it on here, because that's why people listen. Is, we've got over 1,000 listeners across platforms now. I want to stick to those niches, because that's what it's about, Speaking of follower submissions, also, the sink is making a weird noise in this bathroom, so I apologize for that weird sound in the background. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. But speaking of funny follower submissions related to the ER and plobs, one of my friends who was in emergency care recently had to deal with a plob in the ER. He came in wearing an Inuyasha shirt. And he had been gaming he apparently he is unemployed, and he sits at home doing a lot of gaming and stuff like that, like the typical plob, right? And he came in because he said his foot was hurting, right? And she said he could smell him before you even walked in the room, which is saying a lot in the ER. We sanitized pretty well. You could smell him over the sanitation. She said she goes to take this guy's shoe off because he's complaining about the foot, and she's struggling to get it off. And he's like, yeah, I probably haven't taken my shoe off in like 3 weeks now. So he's admitting he has not showered in 3 weeks and has not changed his clothes either. He said he was just playing a new campaign. She said she doesn't remember the name of the game, but he was playing a new campaign and was like all into it. And she goes to take his shoe off, takes his sock off, and you are not going to believe what was in there. Maggots. How does that even happen? Because, like, I've seen patients that have maggots and stuff on them, but I'm trying to figure out how you got maggots in your shoe. How did you get in your shoe? She said it was literally lumps of nasty gunk and stuff she was cleaning off, and that's when she saw the maggot under his skin. How the fuck? I just want to know how the fuck we got here, sir. Like, what do you mean that you've been gaming for so many weeks on some new campaign, so much that you haven't changed your clothes in weeks or even taken off your shoes, and now you have maggots on your feet? How do you get maggots in your shoes, sir? How does that even happen? Because aren't maggots come from, like, flies are the ones that drop off the eggs and stuff. How the fuck did fly get in? You know, how? I'm not grasping how you got maggots in your shoe. There's no video game in the world that is worth that. I also don't understand how he didn't feel that. Because she said they look like they've been there for a while. They were trying to burrow into his skin. My thing is, if I feel like an ant or something on me, I immediately swat it away. So my question is, how did you get, first of all, how they got in there in the first place is the mind-blowing thing. But how did you not feel maggots on your toes? Because he did say that, like, his foot was hurting. But that was his complaint, was his foot was hurting. And it's like, I don't understand how we got here, sir. She said that he also had lice and stuff like that, and he thought it was just dandruff. And I'm like, how did you get this gross? What the fuck? They had to do a whole sanitation process with them, and he complained about it apparently also. He's complaining to the nurse, oh, and I'm just here because my foot hurt. Now you're making me get cleaned up. And but was like bitching at the medical staff that he had to get cleaned up. Because he's just here because his foot hurt and he just wanted some pain pills. Like, straight up told them. This wasn't like us, assuming or anything like that. I would never do that. I have experienced that myself with Crohn's disease. Went to a new ER and they assumed that I was there for pain medication until they looked up and saw it was a whole mess, malpractice issue anyways. But like, he literally was telling them he just wanted some pain pills for his foot, and he was getting upset that they were having to make him get clean, like they were cleaning up the stuff. What do you mean you're upset that you're clean? You have maggots trying to burrow into your toes, sir. You have lice in your hair. You smell so bad they can smell you outside of the room. You've admitted that you've been wearing the same pair of clothes for at least 3 weeks. And what do you mean you don't want to get cleaned up? Why are you making it seem like it's a problem that you're getting cleaned up? And I've had patients like that before, but like usually it's, they have a mental illness or something. There's a legitimate cause to it. This guy did not seem to have that at all, according to her. She said he did not have no history of anything like that. He was just that gross. I really wish she remembered the name of that game because I want to know so bad. I want to know what that game was that he has decided is worth all of that. I mean, there's no game in the world that will ever make me think it's worth all of that, but I'm still curious, I am going to go ahead and end the pod. I know it's 15 minutes early. That's why I did the last one a little bit longer because I will make sure I also have a Thursday podcast. Once again, I get back the weekend of July 4th. I will be back home, and that's when I will be able to start scheduling people to come on the podcast with me. And like I said, every Thursday I want to have a new person, everyday regular people. Once again, no over 18, no racism, no homophobia, no slurs. Has to be on topic. They have to be plob stories, ER stories, dummy, funny stories. It needs to be in that genre. Other veterans, things like that. What we talk about on here, we're not going to be changing at all what's talked about on here. So if anybody wants to come on and tell their plob stories, like I said, I have a few that have even talked about dating plobs they want to share, working at game stores, going to conventions, all of those things. You can email me or message me on Instagram or TikTok. If you are looking for any kind of, anywhere that any of my other social media that's not TikTok, look in the link on the social media, please. On my TikTok, it's the pop whatever. link, because I do have trolls, especially that little incel group keeps like taking my freaking username on other platforms I'm not on, and making fake pages. This is a reminder, I will never ask anybody on social media for money or anything like that. Please do not fucking, if any of these fucking weirdos come out and ask you for money, just immediately block and report their account, because that means it is not me on that account. I have one TikTok account. I technically do have a backup called oh gosh, what is my backup called? I forgot what it's called. Gamer Sugar Rush. That is the only backup I have, and I don't have the login for it because it's been so long. I don't remember how to log in, and it won't let me. So I promise you, I will never reach out and ask for money or anything like that on there. Please ignore those scammers. Everybody remember to hydrate because of all of the heat wave, and coffee and soda is not hydration. You need to drink some water, even if it's flavor water. Gatorade, Powerade. Don't worry, I hate regular water too, unless it's very specific brands. But you got this. Hydrate. Remember, everybody is a beach body. I don't care. Stretch marks, scars, weight, whatever. You go out there. Don't feel like you have to wear a shirt on the beach. Don't feel like you have to wear one piece. You wear whatever you want to wear, baby. And as always, I am a Ken doll with interchangeable accessories for their pleasure.